Throughout the history of mankind, there have been events and circumstances that have caught our attention because they have yet to be explained. From murders to disappearances to stories that have even been adapted to mainstream television, there are a whole lot of strange occurrences that some of our most brilliant minds have been unable to solve. So today, from iconic serial killers to eerie instances, we're counting down the top 5 scary unsolved mysteries. And be warned, there are quite a few of them that are rather unsettling. Let's get to it. And at number 5, the Beaumont children. Starting off our list is a mystery from Australia back in 1966. The disappearance of the Beaumont children is a mystery that has left people scratching their heads for decades now. 3 siblings aged 9, 7, and 4 years old disappeared from a beach in South Australia on Australia Day. According to witnesses, the last sighting of the children on the beach had been in the company of a tall, blonde, tan, athletic man with a thin face in his mid-30s. But the children and this suspect were never found, and bodies were never located. Since the beach was a short ways away from their home, their parents believed that the eldest sibling, Jane, would be capable of looking after her younger siblings, and the 3 of them would return home by noon as were instructed. This was a common occurrence for them, and because of the times back then, parents didn't worry about their children being harmed or abducted by strangers. When their father returned home from work at 3 p.m., the children were still not back, so he drove down to the beach, but was unable to locate them. Police quickly organized a search, with everyone hoping that the children had just simply lost track of time. Within 24 hours of the search, the missing children became known nationwide. The tall blonde man that the witnesses had described seeing the children with seemed odd to the parents, considering their children were often quite shy, and reports say that they were quite relaxed with him. It is suspected that perhaps the suspect had met with the children on the beach on multiple occasions, gaining their trust. There were a few other sightings too, with the children reportedly being sighted walking home alone around 3 p.m. To this day, the case has yet to be solved, and in 2016 and 2018 there were leads that police explored, although it turned out that they were dead ends. This case is often credited with a shift in Australian lifestyles, with parents beginning to fear that their children were no longer safe when unsupervised in public. From missing children to serial killers, in at number 4 is Jack the Ripper. The Jack the Ripper case is perhaps the biggest unsolved serial killer case in the world, which over time has often found its way into contemporary horror stories and media and pop culture. In case you're not familiar with who Jack the Ripper is, back in 1888 in the London district of Whitechapel, a serial killer became known as Jack the Ripper terrorized the poverty-stricken area. His victims were typically women working as prostitutes, who had their throats cut prior to receiving abdominal mutilation, in which their internal organs were tampered with or removed. Because of this last bit of evidence, it was commonly believed that Jack the Ripper had some sort of knowledge or experience with the human anatomy and surgical practices. During the course of the killings, media outlets received letters allegedly from the killer, one of which referred to themselves as Jack the Ripper, which is where the name came from, despite the belief that most of these letters were a hoax, minus the infamous From Hell letter that came alongside half a preserved human kidney, reportedly taken from one of the victims. There are an unknown number of killings by Jack, although 5 specifically found between August 31st and November 9th of 1888 are considered to be canon killings because the evidence linked them all. The murders were never solved, and to this day Jack the Ripper still captivates the public's interest. Up next at 3, the DYATLOV Pass incident. Back in 1959, a group of 10 young hikers went on a skiing expedition across the northern Urals of the then Soviet Union. Consisting mainly of students in their early 20s, 9 of them were later found dead, and the cause of their deaths have never been identified. Based on evidence found, the incident that caused their deaths occurred between February 1st and 2nd. Here's what we know thanks to diaries and camera footage. The group of 10 set out in the early hours of January 25th to a village that was the last inhabited settlement to the north of their destination. On the 28th, one of their members, the only survivor of the group, was suffering from health conditions pertaining to his heart, so he was forced to stay behind. The other 9 continued, and on the 31st they arrived at the edge of a highland area where they began to prepare to climb the nearby slopes. On the 1st, they had started to move across the pass with the intention of camping out on the other side, but the weather conditions worsened, with snowstorms and poor visibility becoming an issue. They chose to camp out on the slope, not wanting to lose the altitude that they had already gained. Prior to their departure, the group's leader had told their sports club that they would send a telegram upon their return, roughly around February 12th. The telegram never came. On February 20th, a rescue operation began, and on the 26th, the group's abandoned tent was discovered. According to one of the searchers, the tent was half torn down and covered in snow. It was empty, and all the group's belongings and shoes had been left behind. Footprints were found, implying that some were barefoot or in socks, and the prints led down to the nearby woods. This is where they found the first bodies, who were only dressed in their underwear. Other bodies were found nearby, and it appeared as if some of them had tried to climb a nearby tree in panic. It gets weirder too. According to the journalist reporting on the findings, 6 members of the group died from hypothermia, while 3 died of fatal injuries, including skull damage and chest fractures. The tent had been ripped from within. There were no indications of other people near the pass except for them. Based on the evidence, the group had left the campsite on their own accord, and the theory that the indigenous people who lived lived nearby may have attacked them was debunked due to a doctor's report, which stated that the fatal injuries found on those 3 members could not have been from another human, stating, I quote, "because the force of the blows had been too strong and no soft tissue had been damaged." The area is now known as the DYATLOV Pass, named after the leader of the expedition in memorial. In at number 2, Roanoke. The name Roanoke might ring a bell to some horror fans out there. The Roanoke Colony, also known as the Lost Colony, was the basis for a season of the hit TV show American Horror Story. The actual colony, though, was an English settlement established in 1585 on Roanoke Island, which today is Dare County in North Carolina. When the colony was first established, they ran into issues due to a lack of supplies and bad relations with local tribes of Native Americans, one of which was the nearby Croatoan tribe on the Huertas Island. Many of the individuals from the colony left to return back to England a year afterwards because of this, but a small group of people was left behind. By the time a second expedition, led by the colony's governor, arrived to Roanoke in 1587, all of that small detachment had completely disappeared. Shortly afterwards that year, the governor left to return to England to ask the government for assistance, and eventually returned back in August of 1590, only to discover that the entire colony was now missing. The only clue left behind was the word Croatoan carved into a tree. It's commonly believed that the settlers were killed off by the Croatoan tribe, but no bodies were ever discovered. Another theory is due to bad weather conditions, the settlers were forced to take shelter with local tribes, but no conclusive evidence can support that theory either. So where did they go? What happened to the 90 men, 11 women, and 11 children that were settlers there? Well, we may never know, but it's probably not what American Horror Story thought happened. And finally, in at number 1, Elisa Lam. The mystery of Elisa Lam is one that just doesn't add up. It's also an incredibly recent case, occurring in 2013. Elisa Lam, a student at the University of British Columbia, was discovered inside of a water tank located above the Cecil Hotel in downtown LA. She had been reported to be missing at the beginning of that month, and had only been discovered when maintenance workers at the hotel opened up the tank, after hotel guests complained about problems with the water supply. It gets weirder too. Footage of Elisa inside the hotel's elevator revealed strange behavior from the student. Whenever the elevator doors would open, she would look outside of them, and kept herself tucked into one of the elevator's corners, as if she was hiding. She was also known to have bipolar disorder, and the security camera also revealed that the elevator appeared to be suffering from malfunctions. Elisa leaving the elevator is the last known sighting of her. There was no evidence found concerning how exactly she got inside the water tank either. Doors to the roof of the building were locked, with only staff having the passcodes and keys, and no alarm was ever triggered, although it was noted that the roof was also accessible by the fire escape. It's also questionable how she would have gone inside the water tank on her own, since the lids are quite heavy and required a ladder to access. There was also no trace of her on the roof afterwards, and she was found naked inside the tank with most of her clothes and other personal effects floating in the water beside her. Now, the most common theory is that she was being pursued by someone, or believed that she was being pursued by someone, and had tried to hide in the water tank to escape them, but got trapped within. Some have noted that the mystery of her death shares similarities with the 2005 horror film Dark Water, and the film that it was a remake of, the 1996 Japanese movie of the same name. Alright, there we have it, friends. How many of these mysteries did you already know about? There's plenty of story that we also couldn't fit onto our list, so let us know in those comments below if you'd like us to do a part 2 of this video. Before you go, if you dug this video, please spread the love and hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more scary content. We also have a nifty little playlist currently flashing on your screen filled with some spooky stuff, so be sure to check it out before you go. In the meantime though, thank you for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.